Adam, what do you see as the next steps on the Hill, reviewing the Emergencies Act and how it was deployed and basically the general questions raised?
Well, we will have our Finance Committee report hopefully done very soon. That would be made public. We had other reviews done by other committees. And of course, we do have now the inquiry that's been started. So all eyes are really now turned to this inquiry that's being led by a judge. And so, we'll be waiting we want to see what kind of information the judge is going to receive. Will the government waive cabinet confidentiality? What evidence did the government rely upon before invoking the act? And so I think, most of us will now just wait to see what that report looks like. And of course, if there's any other testimony, what we are seeing now, though, looks like the government's ground in terms of the evidence that it had was really not much of anything. People are saying there had a deputy minister just earlier this week saying they were getting some of their information on the evidence from what they were seeing on TV.
Right, right. And I think there's been certainly some consternation over whether the public safety minister who said that he was relying on police services' view that it was an emergency when the police services denied that they'd ever communicated that information. Is that right?
Well, that's certainly what was reported yesterday. I haven't had an opportunity to test the minister's knowledge of that. I expect today in question period or over the weekend we will have that ability to be tested. I believe the phrase was that the minister was misunderstood. So we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of days.
Peter Shawn Taylor, you've obviously been covering the hearings as well. What's your take on things?
Well, I just go back to disappointment at the banks and what kind of damage they've done with their customer base by basically allowing themselves to be turned into the tip of the government spear in this. They were the enforcer for the Emergencies Act, and will they face any blowback from their customers? And the one example I think that they failed to follow was example in 2014 when the cell phone companies, Rogers and Telus, were put in a kind of similar situation. The police in Peel Region asked for this enormous, what they call a cell phone tower dump. They wanted all sorts of information on the private information on cell phone customers so they could try to solve a puzzling rash of jewelry store robberies. And to their credit, Rogers and Telus pushed back. They said, no, this is private information. We're going to go to court to force you to prove that you need this information. And ultimately they won. And they won in such a way that the judge set out new standards for requests from cell phone information from the police. So that's an example of private business standing up for the rights of their customers against government overreach. And we had another situation like this, even more concerning, with the Emergencies Act. And the banks just lay down. So perhaps there will be corporate Canada will look at these two situations and try to figure out who their customers really are. Are they clients of the federal government, or do they serve their paying customers? And I think one example shows you where their loyalty should lie.
I think Canadians would be well served, frankly, if we knew a little bit more about those discussions that banks and the Department of Finance and the federal government had, prior to or during the invocation of the act. I had said before, have not been privy to those conversations, but as Peter's suggesting, if there was any kind of pushback, it would be nice to know. I think it would benefit, frankly, the bank's reputation to find out, how far did they push the government? Did the government actually want this to be a much more widely a cast net than it ended up happening, So I do think Canadians would be well served to find out exactly kind of what those conversations looked like, and then we could judge how that relationship played forward. Let's remember too, just as in telecom, the Department of Finance and the federal government holds a lot of leverage over the financial services sector, right? So I think it would be interesting to know how those conversations played out.
Do you expect a judicial review on this at some point? Peter, do you want to give us your opinion on this?
Well, I think the formal judicial inquiry that Adam referred to is hopefully it's wide ranging, and they'll get into all the nooks and crannies of this. I don't have any personal knowledge of where it's going. Maybe Adam does better than I do.
Well, I'm actually really interested in what kind of recommendations might come out of this.
Right.
For example, there was no recommendations made by the government, no instruction or recommendation on what banks, how long they could rely and use this information.
Okay.